Please welcome Nick Jonas. I want to start. I want to talk about the new record, but first, I want to talk a little bit about as you were releasing this record, you started a record label, Safe House Records, and what's the motivation behind starting your own record label?
I think we have to take it back about a year and a half, 2 years ago.
Okay.
It was a conversation between my manager Phil McIntyre and I, and Demi Lovato, who is also managed by Phil, and one of my great friends, and we're completing a tour together, and lots of layers to that relationship. But we were talking about how in this next chapter of both of our careers, we could take more of an initiative, being in control, not only for ourselves, but taking what we've learned over the last 10, 11 years of doing this and helping somebody else coming up, and applying it to also really taking control of our career and our next steps. I'm on island and love my home there. David Massey's been not only a great partner in that label and relationship, but also for me just as a friend, been unbelievably compassionate and kind and patient, and all the things you want from someone that you're going to partner with. So we all talked about it. It made sense to make that step with them through the Universal system, and had our first release on the label, which I guess was my record. And then in addition to that, Chord Overstreet was one of our first signs, initially to the publishing side and then upstream through the label. But it's exciting. Safe House, the title comes from the idea of building a community where artists feel safe. I think at different times in all of our careers, meaning me, Phil, and Demi, we felt unsafe, and that it was challenging to navigate the waters of trying to be true to yourself as an artist, but also wanting to feel free and safe in an environment where business didn't take over and run every aspect of your career.
Yeah, so it can be, I would imagine, for young artists, especially someone like you who started very young. The music business, and Hunter Thompson was quoted, even though I think he was actually talking about the TV business. But that said, the music business was a long sort of plastic trench filled with pimps and thieves. And by the way, there's a negative side.
Yeah. Well, when my brothers and I first signed to, at the time, Epic Records, our product manager looked at us, and again, I was probably 12, and he looked at us and said, "Congratulations, you've signed to the biggest label in the world." We said, "Oh, that's amazing." He said, "I'm sorry to inform you, you've signed to the biggest label in the world." And so it became pretty clear to us very early on that it was a complicated road.
Yeah. Yeah, and especially when you're doing that at such a young age. So credit to you guys for trying to create something where artists can be nurtured along the way. I talk a little bit about the new record. So the title last year was complicated. There's a backstory to that title and how you came to that. Would you tell that story a little bit?
Yeah, so I like to believe that I'm funny. I'm going to work all night on convincing all of you of that. But the title came about out of a meeting with Jay-Z, who's now partners with Phil McIntyre, my manager. And, I was at Made in America last year. I performed, and Jay pulled me aside and said, "Listen, I want to be a part of helping you in your next steps, and whatever way I can be." So he said, "When the record's at a place where you want me to hear it, bring it in and we'll talk about it." So I came in and played him the record, and I had a different title picked out, one of the songs from the album called Unhinged. And after he listened to the body of work, he said, "After I've gotten to know you better and hear the music, I think there's a better title out there somewhere." And the reason I bring up being funny is because I think that Last Year Was Complicated has a bit of a tongue-in-cheek element to it, kind of embracing some of the drama of this last year of my life that I tried to pour into the music, but also not taking myself too seriously, embracing both my youth and my ability, I think, at times to really see things with kind of a grain of salt and know that life goes on, and so he asked me the simple question, "What was this last year of your life like for you?" And I said, "Well, last year was complicated." And he said, "That's the title." So I listened to Jay-Z when he said that.
And then one should always listen to Jay-Z. I think
so, yeah.
At
Worked
this
out
point,
okay
at this point.
for him.
So tell me a little bit about why last year was complicated.
I was in a relationship that was incredibly meaningful to me, and it ended. And I got on the phone with my dad right after this relationship ended, and I said, "Hey, this just happened. I'm kind of spinning out a little bit, and I'm not sure exactly how to process it." And he said, "Nick, do what you always do, which is write." He said, "When you've written that song, write the next song, and do that till you feel like you've said it all." And so I got on a plane with some of my friends who are also songwriters. Jason Evigan, who I did Chains with on the last record, and he did about 5 on this one. And Sean Douglas, who has been a great collaborator of mine. And the first trip up to Mammoth, California, where my brother Joe and I have a place there with a little studio in it, was really just about me kind of, I think, probably being really annoying to all of them and talking about these different situations and finding a way to process it. But it's always been my outlet and always been the way that I felt I was able to process the different things happening in my life. And then there were many other trips and other sessions where I was able to pour out kind of what was happening in my life and my world, and it was the best way to go through it. And then in addition to that, I went from being in a group with my brothers for 8 years and traveling the world with my family to being on my own. I think for anyone in a position similar, you would feel a little spun out and getting used to embracing those elements of kind of traveling alone and all those different things. It's a little overwhelming, and so that was complicated.
Yeah.
But in reality, I think last year was actually pretty great. A lot of good things happened.
A lot of very good things happened.
And this year, really great.
Yeah. And,
Not
if I had gone to my father with that kind of story, he would have said the following: mow the lawn. That'll help you out. So it's you need to know my father. It strikes me that as I listen to the record, and hearing you talk about kind of being honest with yourself, you're being much more honest in your music. Am I interpreting that correctly?
Absolutely. I've tried to be. I think there's real freedom in being vulnerable and making yourself uncomfortable at times with what you're saying in your music. And it's not for everybody. And I'm perfectly aware of a lot of people that I even collaborate with that feel like it can't be a direct reflection of their life. But for me, I think I'm the most connected to what I'm saying and the music that I'm sharing with the world when it comes from my real life experience. It's a tool for me too to process the things in my life, as I said. So I've loved getting more vulnerable. There are songs in this album where I went really deep and got into kind of the heart of the different things I was feeling. Songs like Chainsaw, which I'm really proud of, and a song called Comfortable and Champagne Problems. All things that really happened, stories that I was able to lay out and question at the time, even if I was saying too much, and wondering, what the person would think when they heard it, or you ask yourself a million questions, you doubt yourself a million times, only to get to the answer, which is being proud of a body of work and knowing that you did your best to tell your stories and share your life. And I think that's where we can all kind of relate, no matter what our circumstances are in our life, whether it be work or relationships, finances, whatever, we all connect on these human trials and tribulations and things that make us who we are.
It strikes me that there was sort of a, you were giving a hint when you released Levels that song, was kind of, don't take this the wrong way, the gateway drug to this record, in terms of the way you approached it. Talk about that a little bit. Am I right? Am I thinking about
the gateway drug or the?
Well, no, not the gateway drug. Levels.
Well, yeah, this is being streamed, right? We can't talk about that. Let's see. So Levels, important record for me. I think I needed a live record. So in addition to, I think, being a songwriter and a performer, something that I've learned probably from the acting experience I've had is how to trust in your team as well. And David Massey and his team at Island are exceptional at picking great records for the artists. Levels and Chains were are both records that I needed that I didn't write myself. You know, so thankful that "Jealous" is a song that opened up the doors, but having that follow up was so important. So. Yeah,
But you collaborated on the writing process with Levels. Am I right about that?
No.
No.
No, I just showed up and sang.
I am completely wrong. I am completely wrong. Sorry about that. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I wish I did.
Yeah.
But I didn't.
All right. Fair enough.
But yeah, I loved that record, and live, it's one of my favorite ones to play. I opened the show with it, actually. And, you know, I think when we recorded it, we weren't quite sure if it was going to be the bridge to the next record or maybe the first single off the next record. But I'm glad that we kind of took a breath and said, all right, let's have a moment and really think about what we want to say next. And that was, last year was complicated as a body of work.
Yeah. But you took on, as you went into recording last year was complicated, you took on the role of co-writer on a number of tracks and co-producer on a number of tracks. Which is, you know, that's a level of complication above just kind of coming in and playing or singing on a track. What gave you the confidence to do that?
You know what's interesting, and I think if I were asked what the biggest misconception is about me, it would be that I am pretty sure people don't think I was a part of the process of writing with the brothers. When in fact I was a big piece to the writing for that. Only I think 1 or 2 songs I wasn't a part of writing throughout the whole 3 or 4 records we made. So being a part of the creative process has always been really important to me. But my confidence took a big hit. I'd say about 5 or 6 years ago. You know, I was in an off cycle with the brothers. Joe was doing a solo project, and I went and did a year and a half of writing for other people, where not one of the songs that I wrote for other people out of 150 songs got cut. So,
ouch.
A lot of doors closed in my face, and this was after enormous success with the brothers. So I think I took a minute to go, all right, this is actually something that I need to work really hard at. It'd be wrong to say I got lucky with the brothers, because we actually did work hard, and I think we were really just kind of in the right place at the right time. But there was an element of the momentum behind the whole thing carried kind of whatever the creative process was, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
So we could get away with a little bit more. And, you know, once I had that moment where I was really humbled and thought I had written songs that would really connect and that people would like, and it would be easy to get a song placed, I went a year and a half without one of them getting cut. So, you know, when I went in to really start writing for my stuff, it was after I'd written a song called Santa Barbara with a friend of mine, Paul. And we knew there was something special about it, knew it was different. And that's the first song I played for David Massey. Didn't really know what was going to happen with that deal or if it was going to happen at all. He heard it, loved it, and said, you got to go deeper, though. Let's get you in some rooms with some different people and push yourself. And so I was immediately full of fear about what that would be like to collaborate with other people again. And, to be put in a room and say, okay, write a song, hopefully it's a hit. Because I had done that for 2 years and nothing came of it. So the first session I went into was with Nolan Labrosia and Simon Wilcox, and we came out with a song called Jealous that would change my life and career. And I walked it into Phil McIntyre's office, my manager, and said, I wrote this song today. I don't know, see if you like it. And he heard it and said, congratulations, you did it, it's a hit. I was like, I think there's a few more steps that have to come into play before it's a hit. And he's like, no, I'm really proud of you, this is great. This is great. I was like, all right. Great, it's good.
Yeah.
Who knew?
We're done, okay.
And, you know, that would become a number one for us, so it was really special. And I'm thankful that there was belief instilled in me again, because it was something that was so uncomfortable for me for a little while.
How did that fuel the rest of the process? Because then you took on production credits, you were producing. And all of a sudden, not only are you responsible for, kind of being the artist and being the voice, but now the entire sound of a track. How did that success kind of launch you?
I think it was some of that disappointment was a driving factor once there was confidence reinstilled in me, and once I found my sound, so that was the most important piece, was discovering the sound, and for me that was a lot of listening to new music. I was so inspired before by older classic records and things that were kind of the music my dad raised me on. Carole King and Stevie Wonder, the Bee Gees. That was kind of my main record collection. And
That'll do.
Yeah, it was pretty good stuff to start on. But then, listening to some new stuff, Maxwell and Miguel and Frank Ocean, all these things that really help shape the sound, help me settle in and say, all right, let me embrace, some new synths and some new beats and other things that might push me a little. And then I started to have a lot of fun with it. And that's where, you asked about gaining the confidence to get more involved in the creative process. I think I might have the best job in the world to get to make music for a living and get to play shows. And I feel like the luckiest person in the world because I almost feel like I shouldn't be in this position, but I am.
Well, and that's sort of a common description that many artists have in terms of the kind of self-doubt that, is this as good as people are telling me it is? That's one thing. The second thing is being able to walk into a studio and kind of have that self-confidence to say, hey, I know we can make this great. There's a group of musicians here and writers, and I'm the person in front. Did you eventually become comfortable in that role?
Yeah, I think I really enjoyed some of the sessions I would walk into in phase 2, I call it. That's where I kind of launched my solo venture, and it was initially just the writing. But in phase 2, of walking into rooms and there being no knowledge of my history with the brothers or anything like that, because I actually was kind of seen as an underdog, and it actually gave me fuel to come in and work hard and do my best to just write the best song every day. Mm-hmm. It's not about proving a point or letting people know that you're the artist and it's your vision and that's the end of the road if it doesn't go that way. I try to be a very collaborative person. My life and stories, I think, are things that I love to write about, but if someone comes in and has the idea, I'm all for going with that. And so I think it's about being a chameleon and being willing to kind of humble yourself and say, let the best song win, you know, and that's the fun in it too.
Yeah, you talked about being a collaborator, and you collaborated with a bunch of people on this record, some of whom you've worked with before, Jason Evigan and Sir Nolan. And I'm wondering, given your relationship with those guys prior to this record, what is it about that partnership that works so well for you?
I like to ride with the homies. I don't know.
Are these your boys? They're your boys?
Yeah, but I can't believe I said that, but it's it's true. I mean, there's a certain element of people that were with you from the beginning, and it's not the beginning necessarily for me, but from the beginning of phase 2. Mm-hmm. I'm really grateful for that. And so when it came time again to start writing and recording, I looked at the team and said, listen, these guys really stood with me, and there were other people that came in the mix and wanted to write and create. And I never closed any doors, but I just found that I was really locking in with them. Like there was still more to write and so yeah, I think it's been kind of nice to build those partnerships and friendships, and I'm excited to continue to evolve though. That's the biggest thing for me is I know that on the next body of work, I got to continue to push myself and open up the doors to new collaborators and people that will inspire me in new and different ways. And I like to be extremely uncomfortable. In the creative process, in the sense that I never want to be complacent and settled and feel like I said before, like my idea is the best, or if I walk into a room with so-and-so that I know their idea will be the best and I can sit back and just hang. Yeah. I need to be pushed and to feel uncomfortable.
Yeah. Well, so speaking of that, you worked with Max Martin and his extended crew on this record. Now, these guys have a track record at this point that is beyond reproach. Huge mega hits.
Few hits, yeah.
For all manner of artists. And I imagine that's got to be, when you're walking into the room, whether it's Max or one of his team, a little intimidating.
Scary, in a word. Yeah.
How did you deal with that?
Well, singing a Max Martin written song is, I think, the most challenging thing I've done as an artist and a performer, because because he's so hyper aware of every detail of it and the nuances of who you are as a vocalist. And he does his research and really has the ability to know how to coach you before he's even worked with you, which I think is just unbelievable and says a lot about who he is. And so I was really challenged by him and his whole team, and found that was a situation where I had to kind of look myself in the mirror in the bathroom before and go, all right, get your head in the game, let's go, let's do this. And I think it worked out. Okay,
Yeah.
it was good.
Well, and now, kind of being on the other side of this, given their remarkable success, is there something you can identify from having worked with them that makes those guys different? Makes them better?
Attention to detail.
How so?
I think that there's beauty in keeping things raw and authentic and loose. A lot of the best records ever are not perfect. They're far from it, but that's what makes them great. The emotion, the heart. They have the ability to keep all that in there, but also with melody and specifically, the melodic approach. There's so much attention to detail and overall singing technique, which I think is something that can get a little lost in the process of just hoping to get the quickest result in certain situations. And with them, they'll take all the time necessary to get it right. And I really respect that.
Yeah. I think the track you worked on was Under You, was the track you did with those guys. Now, again, benefit of perspective, what did you learn from working with that crew?
I have a bit of a mantra that I say to myself, which I think has really helped me in my life in general, but specifically after working with people like Max Martin and his team, and that is, don't be lazy.
Huh.
Just don't be lazy. It's worth putting in the time and the effort to make it the best it can be. And I'm certainly not perfect and never will be, hyper aware of that, but I know that it's just important to put your best foot forward and make sure that you do the homework.
So I have to ask you about my favorite track on the record, Bacon.
Bacon.
Sorry, everything goes better with bacon. It's just true.
It's true. It's
and,
really...
and I'm it's kind of one of those things where, oh man, why did it take so long for somebody to write a track about bacon?
That's great.
So tell me a little bit about the inspiration.
Well, I was newly out of this relationship about a month and a half, and I got past the sort of emotional part of it and got to this realization where I woke up and was like, I feel free and happy. And actually, this thing that seemed like it was going to be really hard to get over has become something that I see as an opportunity to enjoy my life more and take in all of these experiences. And, so I got in the room with Priscilla Renee and Sir Nolan. And I was telling them about this, and we started talking, and I don't know how the bacon element of it exactly came up, but we all decided that bacon does make everything better. So when life's so good... you might as well throw some bacon on it, make it that much better. And
I love this. I'm sorry. I just love it.
And also, I just really like bacon.
Yeah.
So,
who doesn't?
Who doesn't? The other day I was actually at my friend's family's house down in Texas, where I'm from originally. And my friend's mother was cooking us breakfast, and I usually try to eat pretty healthy. Occasionally, the odd slice or two of pizza or a whole pizza slips by.
You're young. It's okay.
Yeah. But she came in and she was like, I made you something special today. I was like, oh, great. What? And she's like, I don't know if you know this, but it's National Bacon Day. And I was like, I don't know where this is going, but yeah, I didn't know that.
I'm sorry, I missed that.
Yeah,
I would like to have known that.
She said, I made you bacon waffles.
Oh!
Oh my God. Yeah. It was pretty special. I wrote Bacon Part 2 right after that, actually.
Yeah. So on that track, you had Ty Dolla $ign.
Yeah, isn't he the best? He's awesome.
So how did you come to meet him?
This story's going to sound fake. I know.
All right, we're already talking about a track about bacon, so it's okay.
So basically, after the Much Music Awards, not this year, last year, the year before, Abel, The Weeknd, invited a bunch of us to his apartment. And, so it was Ed Sheeran, Abel, myself, and Ty. And I found myself sitting around with the three of them, drinking, hanging out, and they all started playing music, their new music for each other. Songs that have since been released, and I'm blown away that I was in that room. But I was blown away by Ty and his writing and the whole thing. And what I said was, like, they were like, all right, Nick, it's your turn. And I had bacon, like that. I had the song. Yeah, and I was like, all right.
I like where this is going.
I was like, I can't play this, though, without a feature from you. And he was like, what do you mean? He was like, I have a song that I want to play, but listen, I'm going to send it to you tonight. And tomorrow, I know you said you have a day off. Can you get in and record it? He was like, send it to me. So I sent it to him that night. And it wasn't the next day. It was like a couple of days later. He sent me back a version with his voice on it. And it blew my mind. And he just killed it. And there were actually duets born from every artist that was there. And it's all because of Abel.
Huh.
The Weeknd organized, like, basically an A&R session between a bunch of artists.
All about bacon.
All about bacon. Well, not every song. The other ones were about other things.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a minute.
Yeah, the gateway drug.
So on this record, there are some things that are surprising. One is a collaboration with Corin Roddick from Purity Ring.
Didn't make the record, that song, but I think he's amazing. We
Yeah.
had a great time.
Yeah. This is an electronic duo from Canada.
They're amazing.
And really unusual. I would say not your typical kind of electronic duo. They do some very unusual things. How did you get introduced to them?
Well, I listened to their most recent record and fell in love with it. I was shooting a film in Cincinnati last year, and it was all I played on my way to and from set. Just such a great record. And, I listened to production style specifically and was so confused and, like, just blown away by the approach they took. So I direct messaged them on Twitter and said, listen, I love your record. I'd love to get in and work together. And they hit me back right away. And we got in the studio. We wrote a song, and they were touring, and I was about to start touring, so we couldn't really finish it. But I am confident we'll do some more together. But it made sense to me when I worked with him why the record sounds so unique, and he makes all the beats and everything, and self-admittedly says like, I have a really bizarre approach to making music, but he's like, I hope it's cool for you. So he showed me, and it's off his iPad with a bunch of different sounds and samples and things that he pulls in, and it's a very kind of new age approach, but it's unbelievable. He gets great stuff, and the song we wrote is really great, and I think we'll find a home sometime.
Working with someone like that, it makes me wonder, do you have an interest in kind of becoming a little more, don't take this the wrong way, experimental in your approach?
Yeah, for sure. I'm down for just about anything. I really think that when it comes to creativity, you never know where the song's going to come from. Mm-hmm. As long as the song is something you're proud of, how it's produced, or whether it's that approach, experimental sort of, even electronic, I guess you would say, whatever it is, or down to the roots, and it's me and an acoustic guitar. As long as I'm proud of the song first, I think the production can kind of be whatever, and I'm willing to go on that journey. Plus, even just in the last couple of years, music has taken such a journey, and popular music specifically, that trying to be kind of on the forefront of that is nearly impossible.
Yeah.
So I think the only way to put your best foot forward and try your best to be kind of on the cutting edge is to just be willing to write and work with whoever, see where it takes you.
Now, I've read that you have something like, and correct me if I'm wrong about this, 200 or 300 tracks of unreleased music. Am I right about that?
Yeah, I wish that was something to be proud of.
Well, no, hold on. I'm not
because
saying.
Now you know that it was because no one wanted to cut my songs. And
it's not
because I'm sitting on a pile of great songs that one day.
It's not. It's not whether it's good, bad, indifferent, or whether anyone wants to cut it. It's just.
Thank you. No.
It's the prolific nature of your. Kind of your work. And I'm wondering, number one, well, two questions here. Number one, it seems like if you have that much stuff in the can, you must be writing all the time. That's one. Two, do you go back to that material for inspiration?
Yes, yeah. So I'll go back, and it probably tortures people that are on tour with me, because they have to hear these songs over and over again. And but I'll go back to my email and find songs from years ago that I wrote with people, and see if there's some spark in it, or see what I learned, and how I could now maybe take it and make it better. But I think it's fun too. It's part of the journey, to write a song that gets you to the next one. I think that there are a lot of songs that are really in a lot of the pre-chorus to the real song that came, and so I definitely go back and listen, and I don't know. I think that it's all part of the journey, and I embrace every aspect of it, and it's probably about 200 songs at this point. Some good, some bad, some really bad.
And I mean, that's basically the nature of creativity, no matter what endeavor. So the last album you did was not necessarily that long ago. I'm not sure that it was, maybe a little more than a year. It wasn't terribly long. And
The first solo record, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And here you are now with last year was complicated. And I'm wondering, given all the changes in the music business and the way artists now release music in so many different ways and formats and streaming and releasing it to specific sites and all this sort of stuff, is it more important to you to release things as you feel appropriate rather than someone's predetermined schedule?
I think that I try to balance my kind of intense artist mentality at times. I think even in the times I speak about embracing the creative process and humbling yourself, allowing whatever to happen, there is an element of the way that I approach it where I'm also pretty strong-willed and have clear vision for things. But I try to balance that with what I've learned from being in the business now for a number of years. And I think you have to trust the people you work with, and you have to trust that they really do know what they're talking about, and if there's a plan, and that I feel like overwhelmed by how long it may take to release that record, and it feels immediate and urgent, usually I end up going, well, that was really good that we were patient, and I'm glad that I listened to the counsel of my team. And then there are times I think you have to be bold and fearless and just do whatever you want to do. So I think in the next body of work, whatever that may be, I'm going to have to be pretty bold. And I think that music and the way we release music has evolved, even just in the last year, so much that being on the forefront of whatever that is important to me. And I'm looking now already. I mean, at what outlets there is and what different ways there are to release music, because I think that it's just a new day. And you have to be creative.
Has that been one of the, because I would imagine after all the success with the brothers, I would imagine that, the transition to a solo career, challenging enough, then layer on to the continuing changes in the business of music. What's been the most challenging aspect of going solo?
Well, it's a tough question. There's a couple different layers to it. I think that in the beginning, I would have said that the most challenging thing about going solo was breaking people's perception of who I am, or breaking some of the bias that was built up about the brothers. And I'm not delusional about that. I think that it was clear that we had reached the end of our road, and that it was inauthentic by the end, and we had all embraced that, and that's why we closed that chapter. But even though we had acknowledged it, I think a lot of the world hadn't, and was less than excited about embracing someone with the last name Jonas. But then, work hard, do your homework, get in there and try to make the best music. Those biases start to go away, and some of the challenges start to go away. And now I'd say that that's in a great spot. But then the next challenge for me was how to have a career after a hit. Jealous was a big enough song and an important enough song that there's a bit of doubt that creeps in where you say, all right, enormous success is only as great as the next enormous success. And feeling comfortable to know that a career has its ups and downs, and the moments that maybe feel low are probably still pretty high when you take a step back and see it from a different perspective. But I got through that, and I feel like I'm in a great spot and have a career that I'm proud of. And then now the thing that I would just be honest with all of you and say that I'm every day battling and pushing through and trying to be better for myself and for my fans, and the responsibility I know I have as a creative person is just to really believe in myself and my craft. And it's an interesting thing where success is a beautiful thing, but also can make you a little complacent and also make you doubt yourself. And some of the noise, I think, can be used as fuel, but a lot of it should just be put off to the side. And you should find a way to be proud of who you are as a person first and what you're contributing to the world as an artist, and knowing that you're trying to build something that you hope lasts. And that doesn't happen overnight.
One of the things that you've talked about, and I think this dovetails nicely with what you just said, that you're feeling more free in your career, and I read a great quote of yours where you said previously you were gripping the elements of your career too tightly. And I'm wondering if you can explain what that means to you.
I think the creative process is a big piece to it. I think that it's easy as an artist to become a little self-absorbed. That's just the reality, and so much of it is about what you're pouring into the music or art and in general, and it's using what's inside of you, and so trying to be a good person in that is really key. I think the freedom for me has come in recognizing that I'm still here. I there were moments I thought it was over, and times when I was sure that it was, I was going to be a 21-year-old washed up teen star, but thankfully that didn't happen, and I continue to love what I do and really see it as an opportunity to show my gratitude, because I know there's a lot of really talented people in the world who have not had the shot I've had. And I think recognizing that is so important. And knowing, too, that, like I said before, this is the most fun job in the world. And I don't take that for granted. I think it's pretty awesome to be able to write songs about bacon and have people come to your concerts.
Pretty good. Recently you received the Songwriters Hall of Fame gave you the Hal David Starlight Award. And I'm wondering what that kind of recognition means to you.
I think that this was a real moment for me. Mm-hmm. My dad came with me, and it was really special because it was at the Marriott Hotel, one of the banquet halls there in New York City. And the backstory is that when I was 8, 9 years old, my dad would drive me into the city because I was doing Broadway shows at the time. That's kind of where I started, Broadway. And I just wanted to write songs the whole time. So we'd get in the car, and from the minute we left our house in New Jersey for 45 minutes till we got in the city, and sometimes more if we were lucky, if we got stuck in traffic, we'd get to write together, And to be there and be among people I love and respect, Elvis Costello being the biggest inspiration to me as a young performer and artist, and my dad and my team, and it was really special, and I don't feel I deserved it. I mean, I sit up here and I'll tell you about the many songs that didn't get cut, and that's the thing that I think about, because I'm probably hung up on some of the things I feel like I can improve upon about myself. But I think you have to find a way to really take those moments and take a deep breath and hug your dad and say, I love you, and I'm really grateful that you believed in me and that you're here tonight. And receiving that award and looking out and seeing Lionel Richie applaud and give me a standing ovation was, a really beautiful moment.
Yeah, I'm sure. I want to ask you a little bit about your audience and your fans. You have much has been made in the media about the support you receive from the LGBT community. Yeah. And I'm wondering, you obviously have many fans there. Why is that support important to you?
I mentioned my early beginnings in theater, and in the theater community in New York, it's a large LGBT community, and I made some great relationships and friendships early on in my life, and I came from a background where my dad was a minister, and the church that he was preaching at, I think that there was a real closed-minded view of the world, and although that wasn't a reflection of how we saw the world and how he told me at, I believe it was 8 years old, that love is love, and that's the way to see it. That I took that and said, that support that I had from those great relationships, great people I met then, and then as I started performing with my brothers, we had a large following in the LGBT community, and I want to do all I can to support them. Any time I think you stand up for a cause, and specifically this cause for me is acceptance, and encouraging my fans all across the world to see it the way I see it. You're going to receive a mixed reaction, and I think that's the fun. The fun is being confident and comfortable in who you are and where your heart is, and knowing that any negativity is not welcome. And I'm perfectly aware of my intentions and heart being totally pure, and I hope that people can see it the way I see it. And I think as a culture beyond just the LGBT community and acceptance there, in general in the world, I think we all need to love and accept and find a way to be better to our fellow man. If I can help in any way, I'd love to.
Do you plan to do more around being public about your support for that community where you can?
I think so, when it's appropriate. I think that there are times where the best way to show your support for any cause is just to show up and be an ally in some sense. And I think that when it's appropriate for me to step forward and really make a statement, I'd be happy to do that. But I work very closely with GLAAD, and they've been amazing partners in setting up unique opportunities for me to meet my fans. And I think as the world continues to spin, there will be many things that I hope to lend my voice to in some sense to see a better world. And I think that the key is finding the right people to partner with to get the best job done. So, I always look for great people who want to do a lot of good in the world. And, it's not limited to one cause.
I know that you're clearly proud of this last album. You made a documentary about making the record. What prompted you to do that?
I met with my team and said, I think that this body of work deserves kind of a more in-depth version of the completion of the record into the baby steps you take in setting up an album. And that's everything from playing it for song pluggers to radio programmers to whoever. And then from there, it showed the photo shoot for the album and all the steps. And it was actually a helpful tool for me to go back and look at and kind of get to know myself a little better too. And I think, I love giving my fans the opportunity to get a better look at who I am and kind of see behind the curtain a bit. And we partnered with Tidal on that, and they've been amazing in kind of every step of the process with this album. And it was a fun thing to do. Yeah,
I have to ask you about your influences, and you've talked about them a couple times, and one of them not surprising. The other one I read very surprising, but I'll ask you first. You've mentioned Prince,
yes.
What is it about him that's been inspiring to you?
My first introduction to Prince was When Doves Cry. And my producer of one of the albums my brothers and I were doing, John Fields, who did actually all 3 of our albums, he said, "All right, you got to do some homework today." And I was like, "What are you talking about?" And he said, "Listen to this song and this song." And he played me When Doves Cry. And I think the first thing that I was struck by was the irreverence of it, and the approach where there was no rules and there was freedom to do whatever you wanted. Music was the vessel to get to the point he was trying to make, and that was exciting. And the idea of just creating something that felt good too, and it was really inspiring. And then I got to make a record with some of the guys who were part of the new power generation. It's called Nick Jonas, The Administration. It was a side project that we made in Nashville, Tennessee. In about a week. We recorded it simultaneously, little to no overdubs, and it was like a blue-eyed soul riff rock record, heavily inspired by Prince, which is why I was fortunate enough to get Michael Bland and Tommy Barbarella and Sonny Thompson to be a part of it. But it was fun.
Yeah. So the other one, and this is a bit of a shock to me, but it could be that I'm just uninformed. You've mentioned as an influence Shania Twain.
Yeah. Big influence.
Okay, so go with that. Tell us why.
Well, Shania Twain. So my dad always told us who produced the songs and who wrote the songs, and when he would play us music, and Mutt Lange was a big piece to our musical education. And then I listened to her records for a couple of years, and at a very impressionable time in my life, I watched her CBS concert special from Chicago.
I love how you remember all of this.
Wow. Yeah, she was wearing this yellow top. Stays right there. But then I went, and I got to see her Vegas show a couple of years ago, and it was just awesome. Kind of reliving some of those memories of hearing the songs as a kid and watching the special, and it was good.
Last question. Best piece of advice that you might offer, sage wisdom, to a young artist starting out now?
I'd say that know there's someone out there working just as hard, if not harder than you, and do the best you can. Work hard and also enjoy the ride. Understanding that it is a journey and it'll have its ups and downs is important. And for me, I think just being authentic to myself too, even when it means maybe running into challenges. And when I say that, I just mean not looking at a chart position, but you know that you're proud of the work you did and that you said what you had to say as an artist. So that's my advice.
Yeah. Well, this has been a pleasure. Thank you very much
much
for coming down and taking the time. But these folks and myself, we want to hear you. We want to play and sing Nick Jonas.